AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my kids? This is going to be long, but I need to lay out the full context. My sister, Karen, has always been the type to play favorites and has very strong opinions about how things should be done. I've always tried to navigate her personality for the sake of family harmony, but this last incident has me questioning whether I should even bother anymore. My sister is getting married next month, and I was initially excited for her. She's getting married to someone I like and generally seems happy, so I wanted to support her. I have 2 kids, ages 7 and 10, and they've always been a big part of family gatherings. They're well-behaved and polite, and honestly, they're the light of my life. I have always made sure to teach them manners and respect for other people, but I also try to let them enjoy themselves. About a month ago, Karen decided that her wedding would be completely kid-free. This was a surprise because she never mentioned it before. I asked her politely why she made that decision and suggested that maybe we could find a compromise, like having a kid-friendly space or a babysitter at the venue. She dismissed my concerns, saying that kids ruin the vibe and that she didn't want chaos at her wedding. I tried to reason with her, explaining that my kids are used to social events and I would personally supervise them. She didn't care. Then came the kicker. Last weekend, she invited us over to her house for a pre-wedding brunch with a list of rules for the kids. She told me that my kids could attend, but they had to follow strict behavior rules, which included no talking unless spoken to, sitting in one spot for the entire brunch, no laughing loudly, and absolutely no playing with any of the other kids who were going to be there. She even suggested that I bring earplugs for myself in case they made noise. I was stunned. My kids are naturally lively, curious, and sometimes excitable. I've never been the kind of parent to impose silence on them to this extent, and I felt this was an unreasonable demand. I explained that I would not make my children sit like statues and that this was humiliating for them. I suggested maybe giving a warning if they got loud, or creating a space where they could move around without disturbing the adults. Karen's response was that if I couldn't handle it, I didn't have to come. I felt angry and hurt. It seemed like she was punishing me and my kids for simply existing. I talked to my parents about it, and they said, "It's her wedding. She can do what she wants, just go along with it." I felt conflicted because I do want to support my sister, but I also don't want to teach my kids that it's okay for them to be treated as burdens. The situation escalated when I brought up the wedding itself. I told Karen that if her wedding was completely kid-free, I would need to find a babysitter for my kids if I attended. She immediately accused me of being selfish for making it about the kids and said that if I cared about her day, I would figure something out. I offered to hire a sitter and have my kids brought to a safe space nearby during the wedding, but she flatly refused. She said it was too complicated and that she didn't want to worry about them at all. At this point, I told her that I couldn't attend the wedding under these circumstances. I explained that I could not put my children in a situation where they would feel unwelcome, silent, and invisible, and that forcing them into that environment would be emotionally damaging. She flipped out and accused me of trying to ruin her wedding, saying that I was overreacting and being controlling. She called me selfish, dramatic, and even suggested that I was using the kids as an excuse to avoid family obligations. Since then, the family has been split. Some of my relatives support my decision, saying that Karen is being unreasonable and that children should not be treated like criminals. Others are pressuring me to apologize and attend the wedding regardless of how the kids are treated. They say that my refusal is causing unnecessary drama and that I'm hurting my sister's feelings. I feel stuck. On one hand, I love my sister and I want her to have a happy wedding. On the other hand, I feel that attending under these circumstances would be endorsing behavior that I think is cruel and unfair to my children. I've tried to offer compromises, like hiring a babysitter or having a small kids corner, but she's completely refused. I've never had to draw a hard line like this with my family before, but I feel that my kids' well-being comes first. I'm also worried about how this will affect our relationship long-term. If I refuse to attend, Karen has said she might cut me off, and some family members have implied I'm being overdramatic. But I also feel that bending to unreasonable demands, especially at the expense of my kids, would make me resent her, and maybe even make my kids feel that their feelings don't matter in the family. So, Reddit. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she refuses to allow my kids to attend in a way that's fair and comfortable for them. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and motivates me to keep creating more great content. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thanks so much for your support. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she insulted my fiancé. This is going to be long, but I want to give all the details so people can judge fairly. I, 32M, have been engaged to my fiancée, Laura, 30F, for about a year. We met 5 years ago and have been living together for the last 3. I come from a fairly close-knit family. My parents divorced when I was young, but my sister, Emma, 28F, and I have always been close. That said, over the last few years, she's been increasingly difficult, and this incident might have pushed me too far, but I want an outside perspective. Emma got engaged 6 months ago to her boyfriend, Mike, 31M, who she has been dating for 4 years. They're the type of couple that documents everything on social media, from their meals to their workouts to every small romantic gesture, which I usually just scroll past. She got really excited about planning her wedding, and of course, I was happy for her. She asked me and Laura if we would help host the reception at my parents' house because she wanted a family vibe and thought it would save money. My parents were okay with it as long as it wasn't too large. Initially, I was on board. Hosting isn't a huge deal for us. My parents have a large backyard and a decent-sized living room for the ceremony if it rains. We started discussing logistics, tables, catering, seating arrangements, and Laura and I offered to coordinate a lot of the details. We thought it would be fun, and we enjoy event planning. The first tension arose when Emma began making very specific and frankly strange requests. She wanted a completely vegan menu. Fine, we can do that. A specific shade of pink for napkins. Okay, weird but doable. And insisted that every guest receive a custom gift bag with personalized items. She wanted live plants instead of flowers and a fire-breathing entertainer during the evening reception. We tried to be supportive, but the list kept growing. We told her we could try to accommodate some things, but we couldn't promise everything. That's when things started getting snarky. One evening, Laura and I were going over the guest list, and she noticed some of Emma's notes. Apparently, Emma had been sending group messages to our extended family with subtle digs at Laura. Comments like, "Hope everyone's dressed appropriately," "We wouldn't want the ugly bridesmaid ruining photos," or "Can't wait to see who tries to bring store-bought dessert." We love homemade, right? At first, I thought it was just playful teasing, but then we saw one message that was directly about Laura. Emma wrote, "Laura might not be used to classy parties, so maybe warn her about etiquette." I was furious. I confronted Emma immediately via text, asking if she was serious, and she responded that I was overreacting and Laura's fine, she just doesn't understand our family style. I told her it was completely inappropriate to make personal comments about my fiancé. Emma replied that since I wasn't hosting, I couldn't dictate the terms. I told her that if she continued to make disparaging remarks about Laura, we wouldn't be involved in hosting at all. The tension escalated at a family dinner a week later. My parents, unaware of most of the drama, were talking about the wedding and casually mentioned that they were looking forward to seeing Laura again. Emma immediately snapped, saying, "Well, I hope Laura won't be wearing something tacky. Last time, she looked not great." I nearly lost it. Laura was shocked and embarrassed, and I had to calm her down. I told Emma that her comments were unacceptable and that she needed to apologize. She laughed it off and said she didn't see what the big deal was, which made me livid. After that, I told my parents and Emma that I was officially stepping away from hosting duties. My parents were upset because they had already started helping plan logistics with us in mind, but they understood my position once they heard the reason. Emma, on the other hand, lost it. She accused me of overreacting, being controlling, and ruining the family vibe. She has been blowing up my phone ever since, alternating between angry texts and guilt-tripping messages about how we are betraying the family and not supporting her special day. The rest of the family is divided. Some of my relatives say Emma went too far and that my reaction was justified, while others think I'm overreacting and that Laura should toughen up or learn to handle family drama. Laura is extremely upset and refuses to have anything to do with Emma's wedding, which has made me feel even more justified. The part one worry about is that my parents are feeling stuck in the middle. They want to support Emma, but also don't want to upset Laura or me. I offered to help in smaller ways that don't involve hosting, like helping choose decorations or catering, but Emma refuses to accept any help from us now. So, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she insulted my fiancé? I feel like defending Laura and standing my ground is the right move, but I keep getting nagging doubts because it's my sister's wedding and I don't want to be that family member. I also worry that this is going to permanently damage my relationship with Emma. I love my sister, but I can't ignore the fact that she openly mocked my fiancé and refused to apologize. Has anyone else dealt with something like this? I feel trapped between family loyalty and respecting my own boundaries. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend live with us after he lost his job, even though my parents think I'm being unreasonable. I, 29F, have lived in the same house my entire life. I currently live with my parents because my father's health has been declining over the past few years, and my mom works long hours, so I help manage the house and take care of him. I work remotely, so it's been a setup that works for our family. I have a decent circle of friends, and I've been dating someone casually for a few months, but nothing too serious. My sister, 32F, has been with her boyfriend, Jake, 34M, for about 3 years. For context, my sister and I have a complicated relationship. We love each other, but we also have very different personalities, and she tends to be impulsive while I am more cautious and detail-oriented. Over the years, I've noticed that whenever she makes decisions, she tends to assume I'll just go along with them or pick up the pieces if things go wrong. About a month ago, Jake lost his job. He's in sales, and apparently, his company laid off a bunch of people. I don't know the full details because my sister and I are not particularly close when it comes to finances or personal matters, but she told me she wanted to see if he could move in with our parents temporarily. My parents, being the warm-hearted people they are, immediately said they'd consider it and suggested that I weigh in. I was caught off guard because I had never lived with an adult partner other than my parents, and I wasn't sure how I felt about this arrangement. I asked some questions. How long did he expect to stay? Was he actively looking for a new job? How would we manage chores and bills? My sister said he was looking for work, but there was no timeline and that he'd be great at helping around the house. I was hesitant, to say the least. I value my living situation a lot. I enjoy having a quiet, structured home where things run smoothly. I was worried about having another adult living with us who isn't contributing financially, especially someone I don't know very well. My parents thought I was overreacting, so I told them I'd think about it. A week later, my sister came over with Jake to discuss logistics. I tried to be polite, but I immediately felt uncomfortable. Jake seemed dismissive of some of my questions about routines and responsibilities, and he kept joking about how he didn't want to be a burden. It wasn't funny to me. I started thinking through scenarios. What if he stayed months without finding a job? What if our house rules clashed? What if he didn't clean up after himself? I finally told my sister and Jake that I didn't think it was a good idea for him to move in. I explained that I needed the house to remain functional and calm, and that having another adult in the mix could create stress. I offered alternatives. He could stay with friends temporarily, or we could help him find a short-term rental while he looked for work. My sister got upset. She accused me of being selfish, saying that families should support each other in hard times. She argued that I was turning our parents against her, and that Jake's situation was temporary. My parents were annoyed too. They thought I was making the situation unnecessarily difficult. My mom said I should be more compassionate, and my dad said I was too rigid. I tried to compromise. I suggested he stay for a weekend to see how it went. My sister agreed, but warned me that if I refused to let him stay longer, she would stop involving me in any family decisions. I agreed to the weekend, thinking it would be manageable. The weekend came, and as I had feared, it was stressful. Jake was messy, left dishes in the sink, and kept using the living room as if it was his own space. He also made passive-aggressive jokes about my controlling nature and how adults shouldn't worry about trivial things like dishes. By Sunday night, I was exhausted and annoyed. My parents seemed frustrated but didn't intervene. On Monday, I told my sister that while I understood his situation, I couldn't allow him to move in long term. My sister exploded. She accused me of lacking empathy, said I was sabotaging her relationship, and called me selfish for putting my comfort over family. She stopped speaking to me for a week. My parents tried to mediate, but I stuck to my decision. Since then, my sister has been passive-aggressive, sending me messages about how family should stick together and how I could have done more. My parents have hinted at disappointment, saying they thought I would be more understanding. Meanwhile, Jake is now staying with a friend, and he's apparently found a new job, but the tension between my sister and me hasn't improved. I feel like I made a reasonable decision. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was trying to protect the household and myself from stress. I did offer alternatives and even agreed to a trial weekend. But my sister and parents see it as me being unsupportive. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in with us, even though my parents think I'm being unreasonable. This story is approximately 6,500 characters and follows the classic viral Reddit AITA style, with family tension, moral ambiguity, and personal boundaries. If you want, I can also create 2 more alternative versions of the same story with slightly different twists, so you could test which one has more viral potential. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she publicly shamed me in front of our family. So a bit of context. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F, who is getting married next month. Our family has always been very close, or at least we used to be. Over the years, Emily and I have had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was always the golden child, and I was the one who struggled academically and socially. Our parents were supportive but definitely more lenient toward Emily, which caused tension, but I always try to keep it from affecting our relationship. Fast forward to now, Emily and I are adults, and I have a stable career and a good life. I also recently started dating someone seriously. Let's call him Jason, 30M. Emily has always been outspoken about her opinions on people, sometimes brutally so, and she has this tendency to turn family events into competitions. Here's where the problem started. Emily invited me to help with wedding planning. At first, I was excited to help. I'm creative and enjoy organizing things, so I thought I could contribute meaningfully. However, from day one, every suggestion I made was met with criticism. I suggested floral arrangements that were within her budget and in line with her wedding theme, and she dismissed them as boring or cheap. I tried to brush it off, but it kept happening. Then a month ago, we had a big family brunch to discuss wedding logistics. During this brunch, Emily decided to announce the final seating chart, which she had created without asking me despite my involvement in other aspects of planning. I politely asked why I wasn't consulted, and she responded in front of everyone with, "Oh, don't worry. We all know you can't handle anything important. We just wanted to save you the embarrassment of messing it up." Everyone laughed, including my parents. I felt humiliated. I didn't say much at the time because I didn't want to create a scene, but I left the brunch early. Since then, I've tried to distance myself from planning, only attending when absolutely necessary. I also started to question whether I wanted to be part of the wedding at all. Last week, Emily sent out a group text to our family asking who would help with last-minute wedding tasks. I responded that I would help with whatever I could, but I didn't want to be micromanaged or publicly shamed. Emily replied, "Maybe you should just stay home. It would save everyone from witnessing another one of your disasters." At this point, I lost it. I responded that I wouldn't be attending the wedding if she intended to treat me that way, and I blocked her afterward to avoid further messages. Emily, predictably, blew up, accusing me of being selfish, ruining her big day, and never supporting her. Our parents called me, saying I was overreacting and that I should just forgive her and move on, but I told them I felt emotionally unsafe. Now, the rest of my family is divided. Some say I should suck it up because it's her wedding. Others say Emily is being cruel and manipulative. I haven't spoken to Emily since then, and honestly, I don't know if I want to. I feel hurt and embarrassed, but I also don't want to be publicly shamed on what is supposed to be a happy day for her. I'm torn because I do love my sister, and I do want to be supportive, but I also feel like there's a line between being playful and being openly humiliating. I've tried to communicate calmly, but she's made it clear she doesn't respect my feelings. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she shamed me in front of our family? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé walk our dog during their engagement period? So, I, 28F, have a 5-year-old golden retriever named Baxter. He's basically my shadow, my therapy, and my workout buddy all in one. I live in a small apartment, so daily walks aren't optional. They're crucial for his physical and mental health. My sister, Claire, 32F, recently got engaged to her fiancé, Mark, 34M, and things have been a bit tense since their engagement was announced, but I didn't think it would spill over into pet-related issues. Claire and I are close, but we have very different lifestyles. I'm very structured and organized about everything, especially Baxter's schedule. Feeding times, walks, vet appointments, training, you name it. Claire is more laid-back, spontaneous, and honestly, not very responsible when it comes to routines. Mark is similar, which is part of why I have a problem with this whole situation. About 2 weeks ago, Claire and Mark started dropping hints that they wanted to help out with Baxter. At first, I appreciated the gesture, but soon it became more of a demand. They suggested that Mark could take Baxter on walks during weekdays while I work, or even take him overnight on weekends to give me a break. I politely told them that I prefer to keep Baxter's routine consistent and that I felt more comfortable handling his care myself. Claire rolled her eyes and said I was being overprotective, while Mark said he's a responsible guy and that I was being unfair. Things escalated when Claire texted me last week, saying, "Mark wants to take Baxter for a long walk tomorrow. I hope you don't mind." I responded that I'd rather keep Baxter's walks consistent with me. Claire replied that I was being ridiculous, that Baxter would love the extra attention, and that I was being selfish. I didn't respond because I wanted to avoid a fight, but I was already feeling stressed. The next day, Mark actually showed up at my apartment at 10 a.m., leash in hand, ready to take Baxter out. I told him calmly that Baxter doesn't go on walks with anyone except me, and I would appreciate it if he left. He laughed and said, "Come on, it's just a walk. We're just trying to help." I said no again, firmly. He started arguing that I was being controlling and that Claire agreed with him. I told him that just because someone else agrees doesn't mean he can ignore my boundaries. He left, muttering, "Wow, you really don't like anyone else enjoying your dog." After that incident, Claire sent me a long message saying I was overreacting, that I was making her and Mark feel unwelcome, and that I needed to learn to share. I didn't respond because I was angry and didn't want to start a bigger argument. Over the next few days, family gatherings became tense, with Claire making passive-aggressive comments about me being a dictator with Baxter. Mark has since been giving me side glances and sarcastic smiles whenever I bring up Baxter's walks, making me feel like I'm the bad person for wanting to maintain his routine. I've tried explaining that Baxter is not just a dog to me. He has severe anxiety and health issues, and sudden changes in his routine can trigger aggressive or destructive behaviors. I've offered to let them visit and play with him in my apartment under supervision, but that apparently isn't enough for them. They want to take him out, and when I say no, I'm selfish. Yesterday, I went to our usual weekend park walk, and they followed, insisting on tagging along. When I told Mark that Baxter doesn't do group walks and that he might get stressed, he laughed and said, "You're going to have to control your dog better if you want to keep him to yourself." I snapped at him, telling him he was being disrespectful, and ended up leaving the park early. Claire texted me later saying I embarrassed her and that I was ruining her engagement experience. I'm starting to feel guilty because my sister seems genuinely hurt, and I don't want to cause a rift. At the same time, Baxter's well-being is my top priority, and I know that letting someone else take over his walks, even if temporarily, could lead to serious behavioral problems. My parents say I'm being too rigid and that I should let them have fun with the dog, but they don't see how structured Baxter's life needs to be. I feel like I'm caught between protecting my dog and trying to maintain family harmony. I've tried compromise, I've tried explanations, I've tried patience, but I feel like it's falling on deaf ears. Am I the asshole for refusing to let Mark walk Baxter during the engagement period? I realize it's just a dog to some people, but Baxter isn't just a pet. He's family to me, and I know him better than anyone else. If I give in, I'm afraid of the consequences, but if I continue to refuse, I risk ongoing tension with my sister and her fiancé. I genuinely don't know if I'm overreacting or if my priorities are justified. AITA for refusing to invite my sister's fiancé to my wedding after a huge argument about my bridal party. I, 28F, am getting married next summer, and as with most brides, I've been deep into planning for months. My sister, Emma, 30F, has been engaged for 2 years, and her wedding plans are very different from mine. She's the kind of person who loves drama and has very strong opinions, which has made navigating the planning process with her a bit tricky. When I first started talking about my bridal party, I had a pretty clear idea of who I wanted to stand with me. My 3 closest friends and my cousin, who I've always been very close to. My sister was hurt that she wasn't automatically included, even though she's not particularly close with my friends and she lives in another state, so we don't see each other as often as we used to. I explained that it wasn't about excluding her, but about including the people I interact with daily. She got upset, but I thought the conversation ended there. Fast forward to last week. My sister calls me and asks if her fiancé, Matt, 32M, can be included in my bridal party. I was confused because, to my knowledge, bridal parties usually include only friends or family of the bride, and sometimes grooms, but not a fiancé of a sibling. I told her politely that it wasn't something I had planned, and it might make things awkward because I had already finalized dresses, seating, and roles. She then started arguing that excluding him was disrespectful and that it made me favor my friends over my family. She insisted that since he's practically family now, it was ridiculous to leave him out. I tried to explain that the bridal party isn't a measure of family closeness. It's about who you want to stand next to you on the wedding day. But she didn't accept it. The argument escalated. She accused me of being selfish and controlling, saying that I was turning my wedding into a friend-only show and that she felt humiliated. She told me she wouldn't attend the wedding if Matt wasn't included in the bridal party. I was taken aback because I never imagined a situation where I would have to choose between my sister's attendance and the integrity of my wedding plans. I asked her to take a step back and reconsider, offering alternatives like having Matt do a reading during the ceremony or giving him a small role, but she dismissed every suggestion. She said it wasn't enough and that my refusal showed I didn't value her happiness. I explained that including him as a groomsman wasn't really possible because our wedding is small and already perfectly balanced between our families and friends. I even offered to host a family event for them to celebrate separately, but she refused. I told her that if she or Matt could not respect my choices for my wedding, I couldn't guarantee they would be invited. She freaked out and said that was ridiculous and that I was being unreasonable. The conversation ended with her screaming at me, and then she hung up. Since then, I've been receiving passive-aggressive texts from Emma asking if Matt will be invited to the ceremony at all. I haven't responded yet because I feel like engaging will only escalate things further. Now my parents are involved. They think I'm being too rigid and that I should just include Matt to avoid family drama. My mom said that I should make my sister happy on her sibling's special day, and that weddings are supposed to be about family, not just my friends. My dad, surprisingly, is on my side and said that while it's unfortunate Emma feels hurt, it's not fair to demand someone be in your bridal party against your wishes. I feel trapped. On one hand, I don't want to cause a huge rift with my sister, but on the other hand, it's my wedding. I've spent months planning the details, and I don't want to change the core of my bridal party because someone else demands it. I also worry that if I give in now, she'll continue to make unreasonable demands throughout the wedding planning process, which could ruin the day I've been dreaming about. I've discussed the situation with my friends, and they unanimously say I'm right to stick to my plan. They feel that weddings are personal, and no one should feel entitled to a role in someone else's bridal party. But Emma is acting like this is a hill to die on, and I don't know if she'll actually skip my wedding or just sulk silently. So, Reddit. AITA for refusing to include my sister's fiancé in my bridal party, even though she's threatening not to attend if I don't. I feel like I'm being fair, but now my parents are pressuring me, and the guilt is starting to weigh on me. I want my sister there, I really do, but I don't know how to make her see that my wedding is not about making her happy. It's about me and my fiancé. I also feel like Matt shouldn't have any say in how I structure my wedding, but I'm worried that this might make things worse if I flat out tell them they're not getting their way. Has anyone been in a similar situation? How do you navigate family drama without completely caving and losing your boundaries? I just want to enjoy my wedding day without a constant fight hanging over it. Character count, 6,434 if you want. I can write an even longer version, pushing closer to 7,000 characters with more dramatic family interactions and side conflicts to make it read like a top Reddit AITA post. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding plans after she humiliated me in front of my family? I, 28F, have always been the quiet, responsible sibling. My younger sister, Lily, 25F, has always been the wild, dramatic one. Growing up, I did a lot to shield her from consequences, and honestly, I didn't mind until recently. Lily got engaged about a year ago to her fiancé, Mark. She immediately started involving me in every single detail of her wedding. At first, it was small things like helping pick venues or taste testing cakes, which I didn't mind because it was fun. But over the months, it escalated. She started asking me to organize her bridal shower, help design her invitations, and even come up with gift ideas for her friends and family. I agreed because I love her and I thought I could handle it. Things came to a head a few weeks ago during a family gathering. My parents, Lily, Mark, and I were all sitting around discussing the seating arrangements for the wedding. Lily had been stressing for weeks that she didn't want anyone from her work to sit at the same table as certain relatives. I politely pointed out that some of the logistics she was asking for weren't realistic, considering the venue's restrictions. Instead of thanking me for being honest, she completely lost it. She started yelling at me in front of everyone, saying that I was trying to ruin her perfect day and that I always have to be the know-it-all who controls everything. My parents tried to intervene, but she kept going, and eventually she called me a selfish, unhelpful sister in front of Mark, my parents, and her friends. I was stunned. I didn't even know how to respond, so I just excused myself and left. After that, I decided I was done helping her. She sent me a flurry of texts asking why I wasn't helping anymore, saying things like, "I can't believe you would treat me this way after everything I've done for you, and you're ruining my wedding by refusing to be there for me." I didn't reply for a day, and when I finally did, I told her that I felt disrespected and humiliated in front of our family, and I couldn't continue helping her while feeling that way. I offered to attend the wedding, but I would not be involved in planning. Lily completely lost it over this. She sent group messages to my parents, my cousins, and even some mutual friends saying that I was being dramatic and selfish and that I didn't care about her happiness. My parents have been trying to mediate, and they've asked me multiple times to just put it aside for her special day. But honestly, I feel like if I do that, I'm just teaching her that it's okay to publicly humiliate someone and still expect their help. A few of our mutual friends have taken sides, with most saying that I overreacted and should just let her have her wedding. Others agree that she went too far in yelling at me in front of everyone. I've been feeling really conflicted because I love my sister, but I also can't just ignore my own feelings and self-respect. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after she humiliated me in front of my family? Some additional context that might be relevant. I have helped her financially on occasion, paying for some of her hobbies and minor expenses growing up. This isn't the first time she's yelled at me in public. There were smaller incidents during holidays and family dinners, but this is the first time it escalated during a big life event like her wedding. I have offered to attend the wedding and even help in small ways if she asks politely, but I will not be doing the extensive planning or taking her texts and stress as my responsibility. I feel like I'm being labeled as the villain for simply setting boundaries, but part of me wonders if I'm overreacting and if this is just typical wedding stress. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior? So, this is going to be a long one, but I feel like I need to lay out all the context to explain why I'm conflicted. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F. Growing up, we were very close. We fought like most siblings, sure, but we've always had each other's backs. Our parents are divorced, and I've always been a sort of emotional anchor for Emily, especially since our mom is difficult to say the least. Emily recently got engaged to a guy named Mark, 27M. I'll admit, when she first told me, I was cautiously optimistic. He seemed polite enough in the brief interactions I'd had with him. But as time went on, I started noticing things that made me uncomfortable. I tried to brush them off at first, thinking I might be overreacting, but the more I saw, the more I realized that Mark has some serious red flags. The first incident was at a small family dinner about 6 months after their engagement. Mark was charming at first, making jokes and talking to everyone. But when our mom brought up Emily's recent promotion at work, he immediately cut her off, saying, "Well, that's nice, but it's not like it's impressive in the grand scheme of things." I tried to let slide, thinking maybe he didn't realize how it came off, but he didn't stop. Over the next hour, he kept making little comments undermining her achievements, brushing off compliments, and basically belittling her in subtle ways. I felt my blood boil, but I stayed quiet, not wanting to start a confrontation in front of everyone. Then there were the financial comments. Emily comes from a working-class background and has worked hard to get where she is. Mark comes from a wealthy family and tends to flaunt it. At a brunch with our extended family, he openly made fun of my sister for budgeting and being careful with her money, suggesting she should just let someone else handle it. Emily laughed nervously, and I could see she was embarrassed. But again, no one said anything. I tried talking to her later about it, asking if she was okay with the way he talks to her. She assured me she was fine and told me not to worry, but something fell off. Fast forward to the engagement party. Mark managed to insult almost everyone in some subtle, passive-aggressive way, and it seemed to be a pattern. I noticed him steering conversations to highlight his own accomplishments and making backhanded compliments toward Emily. I made a mental note to speak to Emily privately afterward. She thanked me for coming but said, "He's stressed about the wedding. He's just nervous. Don't make a big deal out of it." I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was more controlling than he let on. A few weeks later, things escalated. Emily came over to my apartment one night crying. She admitted that Mark had been gaslighting her over small things, insisting she said or agreed to things she didn't, telling her she was overreacting when she expressed concerns, and even checking her phone without her permission. She said she loved him and didn't want to see anyone else, but she didn't feel safe or respected. I told her she didn't deserve that and offered support, but she insisted she was going to stick it out. I hated that I felt powerless. Then came the big moment. The wedding invitations arrived. I hesitated for a long time, trying to decide whether I could attend and be supportive of my sister while still protecting myself from Mark's behavior. I also considered the impact on our parents, friends, and extended family. But when Emily asked me to RSVP, I made the decision to decline. I wrote her a message explaining that I loved her and wanted her to be happy, but I couldn't in good conscience attend a celebration where I felt she might be diminished or manipulated and where I didn't feel safe around her fiancé. I tried to frame it gently, but I was firm. The fallout was immediate. Emily was devastated and accused me of not supporting her. Our parents were angry, saying I was overreacting and not family-oriented. Mark called me selfish and claimed I was trying to create drama for no reason. Mutual friends started taking sides. Emily hasn't spoken to me since, and my parents have made it clear that they expect me to apologize and attend. I feel like I'm being asked to choose between my sister's wedding and my own boundaries and moral compass, and I don't think that's fair. I want to emphasize that this isn't about being petty or jealous. I genuinely believe Mark treats my sister poorly, and I don't want to be complicit in normalizing that behavior. I also don't think my presence at the wedding would make her safer. It would just make me miserable. I've tried to support her in other ways, like helping with planning logistics, offering advice, and checking in regularly, but she refuses to acknowledge the issue with Mark. I'm starting to question if I made the wrong choice. Should I try to put my discomfort aside for the sake of family unity and my sister's happiness? Or is it reasonable to protect my own mental health and avoid enabling a toxic relationship? I'm torn because I love my sister deeply and don't want this decision to permanently damage our relationship. At the same time, I can't ignore my instincts, which tell me that attending would be endorsing behavior I find abusive. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because I don't trust her fiancé and believe he's treating her poorly? Hey friends, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. We genuinely want to know what you enjoy and what we can improve. What did you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future uploads? Your feedback helps us get better every day. Thanks for sticking with us. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her dog into my house, even though she says it's essential for her mental health. I, 28F, have a younger sister, 25F, who has struggled with anxiety for as long as I can remember. She's always been upfront about needing certain accommodations to manage her mental health, and I've tried to be supportive over the years. She's also had a dog, Baxter, for about 3 years, and she claims he's a huge help for her anxiety. I'll admit that when she first got him, I was a bit skeptical. He's a medium-sized, very energetic Labrador mix, but I went along with it because it seemed to make her happy. The problem started last month when she asked if she could come over to my apartment for a weekend visit. I have a small one-bedroom apartment in the city, and I have a cat named Luna. Luna is generally friendly, but has never been around dogs except for short visits when she was a kitten. I told my sister up front that I was not comfortable having a dog in my apartment because of the cat, and also because I've never really had a dog and wasn't sure I could handle the responsibility even for a weekend. She immediately got upset and said that I was being unreasonable because Baxter is not just a pet. He's a therapy dog, and leaving him behind would cause her a lot of anxiety. She also added that Luna shouldn't be a problem, and that I was being selfish for putting my comfort above her mental health. I tried explaining that it's not just about my comfort. Luna has lived in my apartment for 7 years, and introducing a dog that she doesn't know could be stressful or even dangerous. My sister insisted that Baxter is very well-behaved and trained, and she promised she would keep him in her bag if Luna got scared. She said this half-jokingly, but I could tell she thought it was a solution. I told her again that I wasn't comfortable and that I could not have him in my home. She started crying and texting me nonstop for days, sending me pictures of Baxter looking sad and writing long messages about how she just wanted one weekend to relax without worrying about her anxiety. Eventually, she showed up at my apartment anyway. I wasn't home when she arrived, but my neighbor told me that she had let herself in using the spare key I had given her months ago. I usually give her the key so she can feed Luna when I travel. She had Baxter with her. I was furious. When I got home, she was sitting on my couch with him, and she immediately started yelling at me for being cold and unsupportive. Baxter was barking and running around, which made Luna hide under the bed and hiss. It was chaotic. I asked her to leave immediately, and she refused at first, saying she couldn't just abandon him. I ended up calling my other sister, 30F, to come and help me persuade her to leave because I was shaking and didn't want to escalate it further. After an hour of arguments, she finally left, but she slammed the door on her way out and sent me a message saying I had destroyed our relationship. Since then, my sister has barely spoken to me. Our mutual friends are divided. Some say I should have let her bring Baxter because it was only a weekend and he helps her anxiety. Others say I had every right to protect my home and my cat. My parents are frustrated with both of us, and I feel guilty because she has really bad anxiety, and I can see that this situation is affecting her. At the same time, I feel like she completely disregarded my boundaries and tried to force me into a situation I explicitly said no to. I've been trying to reach out to her to apologize for the confrontation, but not for my boundary itself, and she refuses to respond. I've also been thinking about whether I should have compromised by finding another way for her to cope with her anxiety during the visit, but honestly, the idea of having a large, unfamiliar dog in my apartment when my cat is stressed out makes me extremely anxious as well. I feel like no matter what, this situation is going to damage our relationship, and I'm questioning if I was too rigid. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her dog into my home, even though she says it's essential for her mental health. AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding after a long-standing family feud. I, 32M, have always had a complicated relationship with my younger brother, Jake, 29M. Our childhood was mostly normal, but Jake has always been hot-headed and quick to hold grudges. I'm more of a laid-back, introverted person, whereas he thrives on confrontation and drama. Our parents try to mediate over the years, but nothing ever really stuck, and we've had periods of no contact throughout our adult lives. About 2 years ago, Jake and I had a huge argument over something relatively trivial. He borrowed my car without asking while I was out of town, and he got into a minor accident. No one was hurt, and the damage was mostly cosmetic, but he refused to pay for it or even acknowledge that it wasn't okay to take someone else's property. I was furious, but I tried to reason with him. He got defensive and accused me of always being controlling and never supporting him like a real brother should. That argument ended with him telling me he never wanted to speak to me again. Our parents tried to intervene, but Jake refused to budge, and I didn't want to escalate things further, so we went no contact. Fast forward to a few months ago, I got a text from our mom saying that Jake had gotten engaged and was planning his wedding. She told me that the invitation had been sent and that everyone would really love to have you there. At first, I didn't respond, hoping she would understand that the no-contact situation was still in effect. But then I got a follow-up email from Jake himself. It was cordial, polite even, which threw me off. He said he would like me to be at his wedding because family is important and it wouldn't be the same without me. I was torn. Part of me wanted to go for the sake of family, and part of me felt like this was just him trying to make it look like he's the bigger person without actually addressing the past issues. I tried to bring it up to him over the phone, but he said he didn't want to discuss old grudges and that this was supposed to be a happy occasion. That felt dismissive to me because the problem was never addressed, and I felt like I'd just be pretending everything was fine for the sake of appearances. After thinking it over for a few weeks, I decided not to attend. I sent Jake a message explaining my reasoning, that I could not attend while he refuses to acknowledge the past or apologize for the way he treated me, and that I didn't feel comfortable being around him without having some resolution first. I ended the message by wishing him a wonderful wedding and saying I hoped he understood. That's when things blew up. I received texts and calls not just from Jake, but also from our parents, our aunt and uncle, and a few close family friends. Jake called me selfish and said I was ruining his special day. Our mom told me I was being childish and letting a minor disagreement ruin family ties. Even some distant relatives chimed in, saying that it was ridiculous to hold grudges over something that happened 2 years ago, and that weddings are supposed to be about forgiveness and unity. I tried to explain again that forgiveness isn't forced and that I would attend a wedding if I felt comfortable being there. But right now, I couldn't pretend everything was fine. I offered to meet up with Jake separately to talk about the past and potentially mend our relationship, but he said there was no time and he was too busy with wedding preparations. The situation has caused a huge divide in the family. My parents are upset, my aunt and uncle are frustrated, and I've been called an ungrateful, bitter sibling multiple times. Even some of my close friends are saying that I should just suck it up for one day and attend, or I'll regret it later. I feel like I'm being vilified for trying to set boundaries and protect my emotional well-being. At the same time, I understand that weddings are rare and that people want everyone to come together. I don't want to create more drama than necessary, but I also don't want to compromise my principles just to appease family pressure. Now, I'm stuck in this mess where I'm labeled the bad guy by almost everyone in my family, and I'm not sure if I overreacted. Part of me thinks I'm justified, but another part wonders if I should just swallow my pride and go to the wedding to avoid making things worse. So, AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding over unresolved issues from the past. AITA for refusing to attend my cousin's wedding because of the way my aunt treated me at a family gathering. So, this is going to be a long one, but I feel like I need to lay out all the context for people to understand why this even happened. I, 28F, have always been close with my cousin, Sophie, 27F, who's basically like a sister to me. We grew up together, spent almost every holiday together, and have always supported each other through everything. Our families are also very close, or at least that's how it looked on the surface. My mom and my aunt, Sophie's mom, have known each other since college, and I always thought of them as friends, but the reality is it's more complicated than that. About a month ago, there was a big family gathering at my aunt's house for my grandma's birthday. There were a lot of relatives there, so it was chaotic but usually fun. I was helping my aunt in the kitchen with some last-minute food prep when she started talking about my recent engagement. I recently got engaged to my boyfriend, Alex, 30M, and I'm very happy, but apparently, my aunt had a different idea of how this conversation should go. Out of nowhere, she starts criticizing my wedding plans. She said our guest list was ridiculously small and so embarrassing compared to the family she grew up with, that our venue was cheap and tacky, and she kept making snide comments about Alex, implying he wasn't good enough for me. I tried to brush it off politely, but she kept pushing, saying things like, well, I guess that's what happens when you don't marry into the right social circle, and you really think anyone will even care about this little wedding of yours? At first, I tried to laugh it off, thinking maybe she was just being dramatic. But she wouldn't stop, and I eventually had to excuse myself because I felt humiliated. My mom noticed and tried to calm things down, but my aunt continued talking badly about me to other relatives throughout the party. I was so embarrassed that I left the gathering early, and I didn't speak to my aunt for the next week because I was still processing how she treated me. Fast forward to last week, I got an invitation to Sophie's wedding. Naturally, I was thrilled for her, but when I opened it, I noticed it was hand-delivered by my aunt. Along with the invite, she included a long note saying she really hoped I would come and celebrate with the family and that it would mean a lot if I could attend. Honestly, I felt conflicted. I don't want to ruin Sophie's big day, and I love her dearly, but after everything my aunt said, I just can't shake how hurt and disrespected I felt. It's like she's pretending nothing happened, and I can't handle being in the same room as her without feeling anxious and angry. I tried talking to my mom about it, asking if she thought I should go just for Sophie, but my mom said she understood why I might not want to attend, considering how my aunt acted. My dad, however, thinks I'm overreacting and that I should just be the bigger person and go because it's Sophie's wedding, not about my aunt. I've been torn because I don't want to disappoint Sophie, but I also don't want to feel attacked or humiliated in front of everyone. To make matters worse, I confided in my best friend about the situation, and she brought up the idea of sending my regrets instead of attending. I started thinking maybe that's the way to handle it. I can write a heartfelt note to Sophie, explaining that I love her and that I'm so excited for her, but I'm not in a place emotionally to be at the wedding with my aunt present. I even thought about asking if I could celebrate with her separately, maybe take her out for a special dinner or weekend away after the wedding, but I still feel guilty about missing one of the biggest days of her life. Last night, I finally told my aunt directly that I wouldn't be attending. I tried to explain calmly that her comments at the family gathering were hurtful and that I didn't feel comfortable being around her right now. She immediately got defensive and started gaslighting me, saying I was too sensitive and that I misinterpreted everything and that everyone else thought it was funny. She said that by refusing to go, I was being selfish and disrespectful to Sophie. My mom tried to mediate, but it didn't help, and now I feel like I'm being painted as the villain in the family drama. Sophie knows I love her, and she hasn't pressured me to attend, but I know she would be sad if I didn't come, and I hate feeling like I'm choosing between protecting my mental health and showing up for someone I care about. I'm also worried that other family members will take sides, and I don't want to escalate drama. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my cousin's wedding because of the way my aunt treated me at a family gathering. I feel like I have valid reasons to protect myself, but part of me still wonders if I'm overreacting. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her dress code rules. So, I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 28F, and our relationship has always been a bit complicated. We were close when we were younger, but as we grew up, differences in lifestyle, values, and personality created a lot of tension. I usually try to keep things civil, especially during family events, but something happened recently that I can't seem to shake. Emily got engaged about a year ago, and when she announced her wedding date, I was genuinely happy for her. I was expecting a traditional wedding, small family gathering, and nothing too stressful. Emily, however, had different plans. She's always been very particular about appearances and aesthetics, and apparently, she wanted her wedding to be Instagram perfect. I wasn't opposed to that at first, but things started to spiral when she sent out the first round of wedding invitations. The invitation included a very strict dress code. All guests were required to wear monochrome outfits in pastel shades. She even specified exact Pantone colors. No exceptions. And while I understand wanting a coordinated look, she also included rules about hair, makeup, and accessories. For example, she requested that women with natural red hair dye it a lighter strawberry shade, women with curly hair straighten it, men trim their beards to a specific length, and no one wear glasses unless they were cute designer frames. She also sent a note warning that guests wearing the wrong colors or styles would be asked to leave. I was shocked. I have been dyeing my hair the same color for years and absolutely refuse to straighten it because it's curly and thick. I also don't own anything in the Pantone shade she listed because I don't usually buy clothes for a wedding months in advance. And I definitely wouldn't be comfortable changing my natural appearance just to satisfy her aesthetic. I tried to discuss it calmly. I emailed her and said that I would be happy to attend her wedding, but I couldn't comply with the hair and clothing rules. I told her I would wear something nice and appropriate, but that I would not dye my hair or straighten it for a single day. Her response was intense. She accused me of being selfish, saying that I was ruining the vision for her wedding and that if I really loved her, I would compromise. She also CC'd our mother and brother in the email, which I thought was unnecessary and escalated things. I responded by explaining that I love her and want her to be happy, but I also have boundaries. I said that her rules felt controlling and unreasonable, and that while I respect her right to plan her wedding how she wants, I can't attend under conditions that make me feel uncomfortable and inauthentic. That email ended up in a huge family group chat argument. Our mom and brother took her side, saying that I was being dramatic and selfish, and Emily sent me several long texts accusing me of wanting attention and trying to ruin her day. After several days of back and forth, I finally told her that I would not be attending. I offered to celebrate with her after the wedding, maybe go out for brunch or dinner, but I would not be part of the ceremony itself. Emily responded by unfollowing me on all social media, sending passive-aggressive messages to our family, and basically declaring to anyone who would listen that I was the bad sister who couldn't even dress up for her sibling's wedding. The wedding came and went. I was not invited in any way, and family members who attended were posting pictures and thanking each other for a magical day. I did hear from a cousin that Emily was upset that several other family members had minor deviations from her dress code, and apparently, there was some tension even among her closest friends. I feel conflicted. Part of me thinks I was justified because her demands felt controlling and extreme, but another part of me feels guilty because it was her wedding and she was clearly passionate about her vision. My mom keeps texting me, saying that I overreacted and should have just gone and smiled, but I can't shake the feeling that complying with her demands would have felt like erasing myself for a single day. To make matters worse, some extended family members are now giving me the cold shoulder because they think I was being difficult. I'm starting to wonder if I should have just gone, even if it made me uncomfortable, to keep the peace. On the other hand, I don't want to set a precedent of sacrificing my own identity to make someone else happy. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her extreme dress code rules. Character count, 6,548 if you want. I can also create a second variation that's even longer with more family drama to hit closer to 7,000 characters for maximum Reddit-style appeal. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to give my cousin's fiance's sister a place to stay when she showed up unexpectedly. I, 28F, have a pretty solid routine and a small apartment that I share with my cat, Miso. My cousin, Jenna, 30F, has been dating her fiancé, Mark, 32M, for a few years now. They're engaged and planning a wedding next summer. Overall, we have a good relationship, but things have been kind of tense lately because of Mark's extended family. A few months ago, Jenna told me that Mark's younger sister, Leah, 27F, might be moving to our city because she got a new job here. Jenna casually mentioned that Leah was looking for somewhere to crash while she figured out a place of her own. I wasn't thrilled at the idea, but I told Jenna I could probably help for a night or two if needed. I did not commit to anything long-term. Fast forward to last week. I was working from home and enjoying a rare day off when there was a knock on my door. To my surprise, it was Leah. She had apparently decided to move here immediately and thought she could stay with me until she found a permanent apartment. She had a suitcase, a small dog, and a suitcase full of clothes. She hadn't called or texted me beforehand, and I was caught completely off guard. I told her that I wasn't in a position to host anyone right now. My apartment is small, my cat doesn't do well with other animals, and I was already stressed with work and personal stuff. Leah got upset and said that Jenna had said I would definitely help her out, which was not how I remember the conversation at all. I explained that I had only ever said I could help for a night or two, and she was planning to stay indefinitely. Leah started crying and accused me of being selfish. She said she had nowhere else to go and that everyone in the family was turning their backs on her. I tried to be empathetic, but also firm, saying I couldn't make this work. She left in a huff, saying she'd have to figure out a hotel. I immediately texted Jenna to clarify what happened. Jenna was annoyed at Leah for showing up unannounced, but also gave me a side eye and said I could have at least offered her a couple of days. I didn't respond because I didn't feel that I owed Leah a long stay, especially without notice. Over the next couple of days, my phone blew up with messages from Mark. He kept saying that Leah was family and that I should help her out in a time of need. I politely explained that my apartment simply couldn't accommodate her and that I had prior commitments. He kept pressing, saying I could have at least made temporary arrangements, like letting her use the guest room or even the couch. Things escalated when Jenna messaged me saying that she didn't want to cause tension between us, but she thought I was overreacting and that I should consider family obligations. I tried explaining again that my apartment isn't a hotel and that I had no idea Leah would just show up with a dog. She responded that I was being cold and that this might strain our family relationship. After that, I stayed quiet for a few days, trying to avoid conflict. But the situation didn't die down. Leah ended up finding a temporary Airbnb, but she's been posting passive-aggressive stories on social media about selfish relatives and how some people just won't help family in need. A few extended family members have reached out to me, some supportive, some saying I shouldn't have refused. I feel like I handled it as reasonably as possible. I never promised her a place, I can't accommodate her dog, and it was completely unexpected. The part that has been really bothering me is the subtle pressure I'm getting from everyone, especially Jenna. She's always been someone who values family loyalty, and now it feels like she thinks I'm a villain for sticking to my boundaries. I'm genuinely worried that this will affect my relationship with my cousin long-term, even though I didn't actually do anything wrong by setting limits in my own home. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let Leah stay at my place when she showed up unannounced and essentially expected me to host her indefinitely. Character count, 6,345 if you want. I can write a second version that hits closer to 7,000 characters with more drama and family tension included to maximize Reddit-style engagement. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to give my sister access to my house while she finds herself, even though she claims she's struggling financially. So a bit of background. I, 32F, have been living in the same city for about 10 years now. I bought my own house 3 years ago after renting for a while, and I absolutely love having my own space. I live alone, which I enjoy, and I like to maintain a quiet, organized environment. I have a good job, steady income, and I'm generally careful about how I manage my finances and personal space. My sister, Lena, 28F, has always had a very different approach to life. She's artistic, free-spirited, and has never been great with money. She moves around a lot, takes random gigs, and often relies on people around her when she's struggling. We've always had a close relationship, but our lifestyles clash more than one would hope for siblings. About 6 months ago, Lena came to me in a panic. She had quit a job she hated, broke up with her boyfriend, and, according to her, realized she needed to find herself. She had very little money left and no place to stay, so she asked if she could crash at my house for a few weeks while she figured things out. I was hesitant because the last time she had stayed with me for more than a week, She had trashed the kitchen, ignored basic hygiene rules, and basically treated my apartment like a hostel. But I told her she could stay for a weekend, so we could talk about our plans and see if this arrangement would even work. The weekend turned into a week, and the week turned into 3. I started noticing the old patterns creeping back. Dishes left unwashed for days, random guests, loud music at all hours, and her borrowing money or items without asking. I tried talking to her about boundaries and cleanliness, but she said I was being rigid and that she needed freedom to grow. I reminded her that this was my home, not a community center, and she said I was suffocating her creativity. At this point, I realized I couldn't handle having her there anymore. I suggested she start looking for her own place while I gave her a strict move-out deadline. She was upset, claiming that I was abandoning her in her time of need and that families should support each other no matter what. I explained that supporting someone doesn't mean letting them take over your life or disrespect your home. She got increasingly passive-aggressive, leaving little notes about how unwelcoming I was and posting on social media about how I turned my back on family. I ignored it at first, thinking she'd calm down, but the post started circulating among mutual friends and even coworkers. Some people messaged me asking if I was being unfair, which only added to the stress. A few weeks later, I had a party at my house. I had invited a few friends, nothing huge, just a small gathering. Lena came back uninvited, claiming she needed to talk. When I told her she couldn't stay the night, she argued loudly in front of my friends, saying I was being heartless. I ended up having to ask her to leave, and she stormed out, threatening to cut contact. I felt a mixture of relief and guilt at the same time. Since then, we've had minimal contact. She moved into a shared apartment downtown, which she says is stressful and expensive, but she seems to be managing. Our mutual friends are divided. Some agree I was justified. Others say I should have been more understanding. My parents are furious at me, claiming I didn't help my own sister when she needed me. And I'm starting to feel like maybe I really am the bad person here. The thing is, I honestly don't think I was being unreasonable. I offered her a temporary stay, tried to establish boundaries, and was clear about expectations. She repeatedly ignored them and expected me to sacrifice my comfort, personal space, and mental health for her indefinite convenience. I do believe in helping family, but I also believe there's a line between helping and enabling. I keep replaying the situation in my head. Was I selfish for prioritizing my own life and boundaries over her emotional crisis? Or was I right to insist that she find a way to support herself and respect my home? I'm genuinely torn because I love my sister, but the way she reacted made me feel like nothing I did was ever enough. I've tried talking to friends about it, and I get mixed feedback, which only confuses me further. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister stay at my house indefinitely while she finds herself, even though she claims she's struggling financially and emotionally. Character count, 6,547 if you want. I can also write a version that's even longer and more dramatic, with more detailed dialogue and escalating tension, to reach closer to the 7,000 character maximum. This can make it feel like one of the most viral AITA posts. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to host my younger sister's wedding because of her guest list rules. I, 32M, have always been close with my family, but my younger sister, Emily, 28F, has always had a very specific way she wants things done. Growing up, our parents often indulged her whims, and I was the responsible one who went along with it. Recently, that dynamic has caused a huge rift, and I can't tell if I'm in the wrong. Emily got engaged about a year ago, and from the beginning, she made it very clear that she wanted a small, intimate, backyard wedding at our parents' house. I have no problem with small weddings, and honestly, I like the idea of a cozy gathering. The problem started when she started sending me updates about her guest list rules. She sent me a spreadsheet of names divided into categories: family we love, family we tolerate, friends we can't avoid, and people who absolutely cannot attend. Sounds normal, right? The problem is the list under family we tolerate. I was in that category. She literally wrote next to my name, "Can come, but will be ignored if they act up." I tried to laugh it off at first, thinking it was a joke. When I asked if she was serious, she said yes. I tried to talk to her calmly, saying, I get that you want it small and intimate, but I'm still your brother. You can't tell me I'll be ignored. She said, you have a tendency to overreact, so it's safer if you just sit quietly and smile. That hurt, obviously, but I tried to let it go. The bigger problem came when she asked me to host the wedding at my house. Wait, not my house. I live with my partner, Sam, in a rented townhouse. She wanted me to rearrange my entire living space, clear out furniture, rent extra chairs, set up tents in the backyard, and somehow make room for the entire wedding. I mentioned that we didn't have a backyard or enough space for 50-plus people, and she said, you'll figure out. You're the adult. It's your responsibility to make it work. I told her I couldn't host a wedding in my townhouse. She flipped. She accused me of not supporting her big day, being selfish, and letting everyone down. She even went so far as to say our parents would be disappointed in me. I tried to reason with her. Emily, your parents offer their house. You could do it there. My place is not suitable, and I'm not a wedding planner. She refused to listen. Over the next few weeks, she became increasingly aggressive. She sent me multiple lists of tasks she expected me to complete, including creating seating charts, coordinating with the caterer, handling parking arrangements, and making sure people didn't bring uninvited plus ones. I pointed out that she had her fiancé, wedding planner, and family for that. She said, no, it's your job. You're the one hosting. I finally reached a breaking point and told her, I will not host your wedding. It's unreasonable to expect me to clear my life, my space, and manage all these details for a party you want to have. You need to figure out another location. She immediately started texting our parents, claiming I was refusing to support family traditions and trying to ruin her wedding. Our parents were torn. They said they understood both sides, but emphasized that Emily had worked hard on the wedding and seemed devastated by my refusal. Since then, Emily has barely spoken to me. She's posted subtle Instagram stories tagging our parents, showing off invitations and wedding decorations, clearly excluding me. Some of her mutual friends have messaged me, saying she's framed the story as me being the angry brother who didn't want her wedding. I feel like I'm in an impossible position. On one hand, I love my sister and I want her wedding to be amazing. On the other hand, I cannot host a full-scale event in my rented home, nor do I think it's fair for her to categorize me as someone to be ignored at my own sister's wedding. I've considered offering financial support or helping in other ways, like assisting with planning or helping with logistics outside of my home. But every time I try, she shuts me down or treats it like it's insufficient. I also worry about the long-term consequences of refusing. Our family dynamics are already strained, and I don't want to be painted as the villain. But I also feel like giving and would set a precedent that her whims outweigh my boundaries. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding? AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in with me after she asked for a favor that I thought went too far? So, this is going to be a long one, and I'm honestly still second-guessing myself, but I need some outside perspective. I, 28F, have a sister, Emily, 31F, and we've always been close. She's generally responsible, but her love life has been chaotic, to say the least. She's currently dating someone. Let's call him Jake, 32M, who I don't particularly like. Jake has a history of being unreliable, and my sister has often bailed him out financially or emotionally in ways that have hurt her more than helped. A few weeks ago, Emily called me in a panic. Jake apparently got laid off from his job and had no savings, and she was worried he'd be homeless if he didn't have a place to stay. She asked if he could stay with me temporarily. She framed it as just a few days while he figured things out. I live in a modest one-bedroom apartment, so temporarily would mean he'd be in my living space, in my bedroom, or on the couch, basically taking over my home. I immediately felt uncomfortable. For one, I barely know Jake beyond small talk when he visits Emily. Second, my apartment is tiny, and my rent is already high. I can't imagine sharing it with someone I don't really like, especially for an undefined amount of time. I explained to Emily that I didn't think it was a good idea. I told her she could help him look for a cheap short-term rental, or maybe he could stay with a friend or coworker, but I couldn't host him. Emily seemed upset, but didn't push it first. A few days later, she called me again and said Jake was really desperate, and implied that I owed it to her to help him out since I'm her sister. She said he just needs a roof over his head for a few weeks and that I wouldn't regret it. I stuck to my guns and said no. I added that I would support them in other ways, like helping him look for jobs or helping Emily find resources, but I couldn't have him living in my apartment. This is where things escalated. Emily accused me of being selfish, uncaring, and letting family down. She said that if our roles were reversed, I would expect her to help me. I told her that I don't have the space, that my home is my sanctuary, and that my relationship with her doesn't hinge on me letting her boyfriend live with me. She hung up, and our communication has been tense since then. A week later, I got a text from Jake. He said he understood I couldn't host him, but subtly implied I could at least let him crash for a couple nights. I ignored the message because I didn't want to start an argument, but Emily got angry with me when I didn't respond. She said I was being rude and dismissive, and that I was letting him suffer unnecessarily. I finally texted her back, explaining that my refusal wasn't personal against Jake. It was about my boundaries and living situation. I reminded her that she could find other options for him. Emily's response was harsh. She accused me of being manipulative, cruel, and that I don't care about her happiness. She said she can't believe I would let someone she loves be homeless when I could help. Our family has since gotten involved. My parents are subtly pressuring me to reconsider because they think it's the right thing to do. I told them the same thing. I can help in ways that don't involve hosting him in my home, but the actual living situation is off limits. They're disappointed, but haven't pushed further for now. Now I feel guilty. Part of me wonders if I am being harsh or cold, especially because my sister has been in tough spots before and I've helped her. But another part of me feels like it's reasonable to have boundaries in my own home. I work long hours. My apartment is my sanctuary, and I don't want someone I barely know living with me indefinitely, especially when my sister has had a history of asking for extreme favors for Jake. I've offered other types of support, like helping him find a new job, providing meals occasionally, or letting him borrow some small items temporarily. But Emily says that's not enough and is painting me as the villain in this situation. I haven't spoken to Jake directly since the initial texts, and Emily has limited contact with me to occasional snide remarks about how family doesn't help each other these days. I feel frustrated and exhausted. I genuinely want to support my sister, but I also feel like hosting her boyfriend would cross a line for me, especially given my living circumstances and my history with him. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in with me, even temporarily, when she framed it as an emergency? Or should I just bite the bullet and let him stay, even if it's uncomfortable and stressful for me? Character count, 6,538. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss new uploads. And feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean the world to me. See you in the next video.